talk about a team who it's going a lot better for right now. And to win 2-0 away from home in the North London derby just says it all. Arsenal, the real deal, the best team in the Premier League right now, Janusz?
Yeah, maybe in Europe, maybe everywhere. I mean, you and I have talked, and I said they're the best player team out there. But you mentioned Napoli, and Napoli's been absolutely wonderful. But I think it's probably easier to do that little bit in Serie A. Again, not knocking them because they've been tremendous in the Champions League as well, and I can't wait to see them again when that competition restarts. But look, football is about results. Football is about entertainment. Football is about getting from point A to point B as quickly as you can, and that's Arsenal Football Club. It is amazing how well they move the ball from defense to the attack. Right, they don't waste any touches. The movement of the players is just right. The pace on the ball is just right. It comes to the right foot. It just so nice. Even when we saw that goal, and Partey started the first goal to find Saka. Absolutely wonderful to watch, and it's incredible how quickly it came about, really, because as we've said here many times, and we're guilty of it, we didn't even think that Arteta was the man for Arsenal just maybe a year ago, or maybe beginning of the season.
I think you've just brought up a point there, just how well these players are fitting in. I think that is testament to Arteta, isn't it? It feels like whoever comes in, fits in, knows their role and is happy there.
Yeah, I think that's just the belief of the players, the improvement from the manager. I mean, they must be sponges and take everything he takes, because I'm telling you, when you really look at them, in the way they play and fight for each other, I almost wonder if the smaller squad is the best thing that happened to them. They are lucky that they haven't had injuries or major injuries, but I almost wonder, because that repetition on the training pitch, where you can actually go to the same players over and over, where you don't worry about rotation, where you don't worry about, oh my goodness, who am I going to put in for whom? Because all of them are young players, right? So it must feel to Arteta that once he got what he wanted, and that's exactly what's happening right now. Imagine introducing another one or two or three players, the fringe players, and now trying to explain all of that to them on the training pitch, even though they train together and they see it. It's not all that easy. So I think he's benefiting from that. But my goodness, I don't know if I ever saw that coming, because I'll tell you, not to be dramatic, but I don't know if they at times don't move the ball better than the Invincibles. And I know that's, I don't feel comfortable saying that, because that was a wonderful team, but I'm telling you, if not as good, very, very close. Just watch the movement, because sometimes in the game you can see it, but watch how they position themselves. Watch the angles of support. Watch 4 or 5 players in motion when they bring the ball out of the back. It's crazy good.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Arsenal fans will be happy to hear that. So don't worry, Janusz, too much about that. But that's high praise indeed.
Years they've been on my back for years. So hey, facts are facts.
Yeah, I might get the Napoli fans on your back next, because you've mentioned Napoli, and we want to talk about players that perhaps Arsenal could look at. And I know that you think Kvaratskhelia from Napoli, who's absolutely tearing it up in the Serie A, would be a good fit for the Gunners.
My goodness. I mean, he would be a good fit for anybody. I mean, look, I mean, 2 needs are there for Napoli. And, I mean, dream world, I think. But if we're allowed to dream, if you Arsenal, for example, because we're talking about them, 2 players that I think they could use, right? Because let's not forget Osimhen, right? If you need a striker to quickly get behind and score goals, I mean, that's the type of striker
So you're taking both of their star players right now and bringing
both.
them to Arsenal.
If I were Arsenal in the build-up, I'm not talking January, but I mean, they're still way ahead where they're supposed to be. I mean, it's crazy, right? And I'm sure the players and Arteta to some degree privately would agree to that, right? They're playing with house money, no questions about that. And somebody's calling me. I don't know why at this stage. Sorry,
it's Napoli's.
It's Napoli.
The head of the Napoli fan club. They've already heard what you're saying.
They already heard. So look, I break the house for those 2 players. I would. It may be unrealistic, but somebody's going to get them eventually. Not this season, of course, because Napoli are first in the table. I mean, they've got to be thinking that they could possibly win the Champions League. I mean, if they continue to play as well as they have played, who knows? But eventually, I would look. But in Kvaratskhelia, my goodness, if you look at him in isolation, I mean, forget Mbappe, forget everybody else. For me, and I may have a weird taste in players, but he looks like George Best with Mbappe combined with, I don't know, add anybody else you want. I mean, for such a young player, the way he's built, the way he moves, the way, I mean, there's not a player that he won't take on twice or three times if you asked him, but he doesn't do that because he's so direct. Based purely on talent, where he is, I don't know how he's going to develop. To me, he's an incredible force. I mean, something that I haven't seen in a very, very long time. We don't know how he's going to develop, obviously, but right at this moment, my favorite player in the world, bar none.
Yeah, he's been doing absolutely wonderful stuff as well. That's why they're calling him Kvaradona, which again is very high praise right now. Let's talk about another player that's already at Arsenal. I know he divides opinion. I felt like he did so much for his side in this North London derby, but didn't score a goal. And that's what's got people talking. And Nketiah, where do you stand on this player?
I'm indifferent. I mean, it hasn't shown me yet that if Arsenal were to stay at the top in the Premier League, not just at the moment, but going forward, and obviously be a force in Europe and Champions League. I don't know if you go with him. I go back. I think he does some good things, but I don't know if Nketiah is the sort of player that's going to consistently be giving you 15, 20 plus goals a season, right? And that's usually what you need at a level like this. So, I'll wait, but I haven't seen it, right? And I go back to that game. I think I've done it before, but against Newcastle, against a very good, well-organized defense that sits well. And that was the game where I just didn't see him do what Gabriel Jesus does, and move players out of position and drag him out to create space for others and stuff like that. And finishing doesn't look like a consistent finisher just yet. He's very young. I may be wrong here. But yeah, I think going forward, I'm sure they're looking for somebody that can, kind of guarantee you a certain amount of goals.
So how do you assess his performance in the North London derby then, just out of interest, Janusz?
No, I think it was good. I mean, the whole team, the first 45 minutes, as I've said, I mean, in terms of understanding what needs to be done, I mean, very good. Yes, you don't have to score goals to be effective. And I think the whole team was very, very effective, especially the first 45 minutes, which were outstanding from Arsenal. In the second half, we knew that Spurs were going to come back a little bit. They always do that. But I don't think there was a moment of panic. And so Nketiah, in terms of being part of the team, did probably what was asked of him from Mikel Arteta. Didn't score. Okay, it's 2-0 to Arsenal. Massive game. Nobody's gonna, I think, have a go at Nketiah. You asked me longer term, and I have doubts.
Right. So I'm always asking you, and I got it out of you at the weekend, as to Arsenal and whether they're title favourites. How do they not win it now with this lead and with what we're seeing from them, Janusz?
It's there to lose, and they should and probably are. They need to embrace that, and they know it. They won't talk about it. Mikel Arteta, every interview, it's the next game, it's the next training session, and that's exactly what you're supposed to say. He knows they're playing with house money, as I've mentioned. I think he's excited about the possibility of that's happening. I think with every game, these players are starting to believe that it's possible, and it's theirs to lose. How else can you explain that, right? I mean, I can't say any other way when you have a lead 8 points on Manchester City and 9 points, I believe, right, on United and Newcastle. I hope I remember that correctly.
And are you starting to lose patience with the other manager, Antonio Conte?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is quite embarrassing, right? 2014 was the last time I think they've lost at home. I think there was a double by Arsenal as well.
In the Premier League, in the North London derby, yeah.
In the Premier League, again, it looks like they've built this incredible castle with their stadium, and there's no king. And I used to, and still, I'm not giving up on Antonio Conte. Maybe he has a soft spot, but I've talked myself into it that I don't see any progress. I don't see, I mean, I hope that he can still coach, because that's what's needed here. Because I look at him playing the same way, game in and game out. I look at Spurs team coming out strong in the first 5-10 minutes, and then kind of being timid as if they didn't think they could win. I look at a team that loses the first goal. I forget how many games right now they've had this season, and then comes strong in the second half. So I don't know what's happening. Are those players scared of him? Is he a manager that only has plan A and it's not willing to show that, teams have figured you out? I mean, they simply have, the three in the back and all of that. I mean, you just Kay, look at this game. Why would you play three in the back pretty much the whole time, which often was five in the back, against the likes of Saka and Martinelli, two players that know how to break you down low? I mean, they don't need a lot of space. Normally, teams struggle with that because you don't have players that can, in an incredible traffic, beat you in a phone booth, right? Those players can. Saka showed it, right? So I don't know if you don't go, say, four in the back and maybe have the wide players engage Saka and Martinelli, so they have to defend a little bit. You are playing home in front of 60,000 people, and here we are, this boring kind of lacking imagination football. So it's not looking good. It really isn't, because it's happening every game now. This is happening every game for Conte and Spurs, and yet he sticks with the same.
Is he too stubborn then?
Is he what? I'm sorry?
Is he too stubborn? Will he not change this?
Yes, I think. Well, I mean, we know he's stubborn, but I mean, I just think with Conte, I mean, do you just want to be a coach known that you can only coach top teams where you can get all the money in the world, and then everybody says, well, Conte guarantees you that? I mean, when it's all said and done, I think there's always a stage where you have to show that you can build something, that you can, if not win right away, that you show progress. And last year he did it. And this year, at the first hurdle, it's not looking great, is it? And last year was good. Okay, it was good, but fourth place. I mean, how great is that, really? Let's be honest here.
It just doesn't really help that leading the table right now are the rivals who've just beaten them, Arsenal.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.